from indiGO. And Don, we're going to be talking about staying busy and being active as we get into our winter months of where we tend to not be as active as we should, as we normally are in the summer, especially with snow coming eventually. But even the cold that I was telling you earlier, as we were talking before going on air, that with the time change and sunset happening at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's probably a little later than that, but it really gets hard to adjust to the clock, and it's dark outside now when you would normally in the summer want to go take a walk around the block or out in the woods, and we can't do that now. Well, we can, but there's some extra challenges involved in that.
You got that right. So a lot of us there are people that really welcome the snow and what's coming.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
There's that segment of the population that really enjoys winter sports, but some of us it just doesn't work for, and we hibernate and tend to do a little more couch potatoing at that time of the year.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really important to try to keep what you had going continuing. I mean, if you're somebody that was a walker, all summer I drive around this 4 county area that I serve, and I see people walking on back roads and on the main roads all over. A lot of people biking. So it seems like
Mm-hmm.
since COVID, a lot of people just kind of know that, hey, I got to take care of myself. So they're doing that. There's the biking going on, but what happens when the snow is deep and you got frostbite temperatures out there? How do you maintain that? You don't really want to lose that because it doesn't take long to lose muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, I wonder how people can, there are some areas where you can possibly contact the ADRC. There's a lot of exercise courses offered. I know that Jody only has some with the Senior Resource Center out here in Hayward, and
Sure.
she does this on a regular basis. Every county's different,
Yeah.
but it is good to contact the Aging and Disability Resource Center to find out if there's something. If you're an elder and just want to maintain what you got, because if you're not, it's that use it or lose it kind
Right.
of attitude.
Yeah.
And I think of other ways that you could do it. You can join a fitness club if you need that inspiration of others or you need the leadership. I basically do my own thing, and I did this morning, and I do it indoors, so I guess it's a little bit different for me
Yeah.
because I it's no matter what the weather, no matter what time of year, if I don't do that, it really affects how my day works because of the things that have happened to me. Some of my disabilities, something that I was born with is a spinal shift, and
Mm.
it's called, this is a weird word, it's spondylolisthesis. And the top half of my body would shift off, and I think it's caused because one leg is shorter.
Okay.
And I didn't notice it till I was 16 and I was loading trucks, and it was a mile to the bus stop, and I got to the bus stop and I couldn't stand.
Wow.
And I never went back to that job because it was weeks and weeks and weeks of suffering
So it's
and drinking a lot of beer.
kind of a form of scoliosis.
Yeah.
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 Because
And
of a
it
shift in your spine. Yeah.
yeah, and it pulls on your vertebrae, and it
Yeah.
pulls on all those nerves, and it goes down the legs, and it's paralyzing. It really is. It made it so, yeah, I think I drank a lot.
Yeah.
I think I drank a real lot. And it doesn't help. It just makes you
Right.
drunk.
Right.
And I was 16 at that time, and eventually it got better, and then I got a little bit older, and again at about 19 it showed up, and then it seemed like it would happen more and more frequently. And I I think what happens is you tend to change your stride because you subconsciously are protecting the part that hurts.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't know you're doing it, but you don't want that that stab in the back that takes your breath away. And anybody that has lower spinal problems knows what that stab is and
Mhm.
knows how how it feels. And it's horrible. And then I got in a car accident that messed up my neck and shoulders, and
Mm.
I had difficulty holding on to a cup of coffee or holding on to
Sure.
my fishing rod. And
Yeah.
um, decades of drugs. That was what
Mm.
the medical community offered. Occasionally, you'd get, well, your knee hurts. Okay, well, we'll work on just your knee. Here's some exercises for that. And your knee would get better. And you'd think, okay, I got to work. I got to make money. I'm busy. And
Yeah.
you don't do it, but not realizing that rehab is forever. And the other thing is, we have like 650 muscles in our body. And when they're not all working together, sometimes they're working against each other.
Mhm.
And that, once again, that protection where you're walking because you're avoiding pain, you're tightening something else up, which is restricting you more. And that's what happened to me. It just kind of snowballed and got worse and worse to where I applied for disability.
Yeah.
I couldn't I was a cabinet maker. I did physical labor. I just couldn't do it. I'd be staring at the ceiling packed in ice for
Wow.
days and days, sometimes weeks, sometimes a couple of months.
Yeah.
I'd be out where I just can't walk good. And then they drug the heck out of you. So, you're not really functioning at the level you need to produce anything. And I asked my doctor for cortisone shots, and he fought for me because I was rejected first. I said, if you
Mhm.
fight for me, I'll prove it to you. That put me on the hook. So I got a shot in my neck and the back at the same time, which, before they would give me a shot in the back, but my neck still hurts. So it would just pull it right back
Sure.
into that.
Yeah.
So after that, I said, well, what exercises should I do? And he gave me a couple, and then I just developed a routine. The first time I did a squat, man, just getting to the floor was excruciating, but
Mm.
I knew I had to do it. Either I'm gonna do this, or my my concept of what life should be and everything I like to do was over.
Yeah.
So, that was probably about 2017, and I worked on it for days and days, and just developed I watched this program on PBS called Classical Stretch, and they have some videos called Aging Backwards, meaning that at any age, you can improve your
You
life
can
through
reverse.
physical,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
to build some muscle, to make your life way better than it is, because once again, when you feel that pain, you retract
Yeah.
and you don't attack it. And yeah, it took about 2 years until was able to feel confident enough to apply for jobs again. And
Sure.
that's what ended me up here at independent living, because of some of that experience that provides the empathy to understand when somebody is suffering, that hey, I've been there, and I'm with you, and maybe sharing those stories and creating an understanding between both of yourself and the person you're trying to help.
Sure. Wow. Yeah, and I know for myself, I think a lot of people have been following my disability story with my feet and my hips and my neck, and again, avoiding that pain. Now, I didn't have so much pain issues as the nerves would shut down and I'd lose feeling, and not knowing where the ground is under my feet really became a hindrance for me to be walking out in the woods, let's say,
Mhm.
because the woods is very uneven ground. So I took up walking the mall Well, we don't have a mall. We have a wall mart where we can do some walking, but we don't have, like in the cities, there's a lot of mall walker sort of things.
Yeah.
I'm not a stationary bike thing. Now, I know you wrote an article about just recently about having a simple stationary bike in the home just to be active with that. But for me, I don't like the scenery, on a stationary bike because it's the same thing over and over and over. Even going to um, the exercise place here in town. Now I found a recumbent bike, which was better to sit and at an angle
Mhm.
and bike that way. But again, the scenery never changed, and I'm one of those people who loves to get in a car on a Sunday afternoon and drive, and I'll drive for a couple hours.
Mhm.
It's not good exercise.
No.
I
No.
see a great scenery change, but there's hardly any, not a whole lot of exercise with my right foot on the pedal to the brake to the gas pedal. There's some there, but not quite what you would expect if you were going to walk those, 50, 60 miles in that 2 hours. So I started, once I had my feet corrected with surgery. I had arthritis, and the correction really, really helped. And I kind of felt like, hey, I've gained my mobility back. Now, this past summer, you mentioned that I used to do a lot of bike riding the summer before.
Mhm.
This summer, I didn't, my wife and I really didn't get a chance to get out and bike ride as much as we did the previous year. Again, we're busy, working here at the station. My hours kind of changed a little bit, so I'm not up until the wee hours of the night anymore because I'm up at the wee hours in the morning to be here on the radio. But and and again here at the station, what am I doing? I'm sitting down a lot and I'm dormant, and that sedentary work lifestyle really, I can tell, starts to take a hold. And now with the time change and, our I come into work, it's dark. When I leave here, it's not so dark at that time, but I get busy with stuff. And then 5 o'clock rolls around, and all of a sudden it's dark outside, and I can't go for a walk because I don't do well in night. I like to see where I'm going. Um, I haven't got into that routine yet, but I know I got to do it.
You
I
gotta
got to.
create some self-discipline and just,
Yeah,
it's something that you do that's somewhat selfish. You dedicate,
yeah,
like in the morning, I do my stuff. I get up at like 4, and
yeah,
then by 5 o'clock or by 5:30, I'm done with all my exercises, and it just sets. And you would think, wow, I'm gonna be tired. No, it really energizes
yeah,
me
yeah.
before I go to work, and I'm ready to rock and roll. By 6 o'clock,
Mm,
I'm ready to go. So that makes a big difference. But that's me. We all have a different
yeah,
physiology, but and then it may be somewhat selfish, but at the same time, it's giving. It gives better quality of life reflects on your relatives, your partners,
yeah,
all your relationships. So, like my dad using his stationary bike every day maintains his ability to get around before the walker turns into the wheelchair. That's important. And
sure.
and it's the same, like, do you want the cane or to move to the walker? Well, if you don't even want the cane in the first place, right?
Yeah,
So what do you do to make sure you don't get there?
yeah.
And sometimes you get to a point where, yeah, you need the cane, or maybe the cane is something that you take just in case you need it.
Mm-hmm.
But, like there's things like stairs. Avoiding I remember stairs used to be really, really hard for me for quite some
Yeah,
time,
sure.
but I still had to get there. While my wife was out working, I would do the cooking, the freezer's down there, a lot of our storage of our canned goods and so
Mm-hmm.
forth is down there, so
Yep.
I had to go, and you just kind of force yourself to do it. And the other thing is that if the stairs are your problem and you're avoiding it, you're maybe looking at it the wrong way. Can you do one stair and up, one stair and up while you're holding onto the rails so that you got something
Yeah.
for stability
Right. Yeah.
and build that muscle back so that when you want to go all the way down the stairs, it's just that much easier or the way back up
Yeah.
because the avoiding just leads to more of that sedentary wanting to sit. And then it doesn't take much time for you to lose muscle. If
Yeah.
you're hospitalized for a week, you lose muscle. 3 days, you start to lose muscle. So you get the
Wow.
flu and you start to lose muscle because you're just laying there.
Right.
You're recovering, recuperating, whichever way it is. But you're losing muscle because you're not using them at all.
Yeah.
And really, I had a good lesson just last week after I did construction for a long time, and it's been about 20 years since I've done a lot of the things I'm doing right now. And I I was assisting. We had to take some soil out of the basement before we pour the slab because we're going to pour a new slab in this area that I'm working on. And I've got a contractor's wheelbarrow that's heavy steel.
Oh yeah.
And then,
And they're usually a little bigger
oh
than
yeah,
a residential wheelbarrow.
oh yeah, yeah. The wheel just pushing it empty is like pushing something.
Yeah.
And then we're loading it with sand and rock
Hmm.
and up the ramp and down. And I did about 10 of them. And when I was done, I thought, oh, this is gonna hurt, you know?
Yeah.
And really, instead of continuing with that thought, I went back and did some of my stretching. You could feel which muscles were tight, and you do some stretching and stretched them out. And I worked on it. And the next day I woke up and it was just the normal hurt. So it was like, I'm already accustomed to that,
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know. And I don't, after being on so many pain medications to be at this age,
Hmm.
I'm 62 now and I'm not on any.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on a fentanyl patch. I told the doctor before he gave me that, I said, I would rather be kicked in the groin because at least it goes away. That's the
Mm.
intensity of the pain that I had. It making it, my wife said I groaned in my sleep. I didn't, how
Yeah.
do you know? You pass
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Eventually you pass out and
Yeah.
it was pretty awful.
Wow.
But to come back from that,
Right.
I've got a friend that was in construction and he was working on a bridge project and fell off the bridge onto the rocks below, about a 18 to 20-foot fall, and broke numerous bones in his feet,
Mm.
shattered his bones. And he was in a wheelchair and they said, well, you should get used to that. And he said, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And he said that you take that step. You take that other step. He went on to have his own business, and you could look at him today at 70 years old today
Wow.
and
Yeah.
say, you would never know that he was hurt like he was. And
Hmm.
that's that thing that says inside you, is, I don't want this. So
Yeah.
how do I work around it? So it's that workaround. What are you going to do to maintain what you got? And hopefully people do. And uh, like you mentioned, the stationary bike, you're not looking at anything. Put your TV on, put some music on,
Yeah.
you know, find something to maybe put your mind in a place where it needs to be, or just pedal and think about what you're going to do before you get to work or what
Sure.
projects you're going to be working
What I
on.
should do, of course,
Oh.
my wife won't like this idea. I should spend a little money and get one of those Oculus head, you know, the 3D headgear things, and then I can bike, in a 3D world with either the Oculus or I forget the other brand of three-dimensional reality or 3D reality goggles That would be interesting. Of course, I'd probably fall off the bike if I tried to take a turn too tight or something.
It's you can get if you've ever used those things, I was introduced to them once, and it does feel like you're
Yeah,
where it's taking you.
yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Anyways, I digressed. So what can we do today? What's some advice for men our age or ladies that are our age? What can we simply do to get? I mean, obviously, our conversation here is, I'm thinking in the back of my head, okay, Mark, you got to get motivated. Don here's talking to you. He's slapping you in the face, saying, "Come on, get going." And what do I got to do? Well, you talk about stairs. There was now the stairs in my house are too short, and the stairwell is kind of narrow. I kind of like to have a little larger space, kind of like what a school would have, or a public stairwell has a little more width to it,
Mhm.
and they have hand railings on both sides.
Yeah.
I had to put up hand railings in my house because one, I have an elderly father-in-law who lives with us, and it was hard for him to get up and down the stairs. Actually, I think I made those railings for my dad. My dad, when he would come out from Minneapolis, he could not get up the stairs without a hand railing. Well, now I'm finding it's necessary for me to have that for balance. And a lot of times, if I had two of them, it's am I cheating necessarily to pull myself up the stairs? I'm still moving and it's getting me up. And of course, going downstairs, I always have a balance issue.
Mhm.
Going going up is a lot easier than going down. Although you would think going down is real easy because you could just fall, and that wouldn't be the right way to
Well,
do
you
it.
got
But
momentum
yeah,
too.
you got to right.
You have no momentum going up, but it
But
is easier
the work
if
is going up,
yeah.
and
But if you've ever done any climbing anywhere, like mountain climbing, it's way easier going up than down.
yeah.
Down is really difficult.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. When I was out at Morgan Falls and going on those trails and going up those steep elements of the trails, the going up was easy. Of course, I had my walking stick with me, so that helped. But going down, it was kind of precarious in some places. So, again, you're not in those situations every day to drive out to Morgan Falls every day to go for a walk isn't quite the right answer unless you live out there. But for me, like I said, I'm used to that urban setting where sidewalks are nice. I'll go for a walk downtown Hayward. I'll go to a local store, local grocery store, and I'll walk up and down the aisles. And again, my scenery changes. I'm talking with people. I'm a very social person, so I meet other people at
Mhm.
the stores and say hi, how's it going? Then I keep walking. So those are again things that I'd like to try to get back in the habit because in the summer I wasn't in that habit. I kind of got out of it, and now winter's here. Where do we go and to do that sort of stuff?
And how do we prepare for shoveling snow? This
Yeah.
is, like as these things, do you want to come in after shoveling snow and wake up like you can't move in the
Oh
morning?
yeah. Or you're
So
huffing and puffing and you're sweating profusely because it's a workout that you're not used to.
so part of your workout is what builds endurance and the ability to do some of the things that maybe you used to take them for granted when you were in your 20s and 30s. It's like, oh, I got to go do this. And you just do it. It's nothing now. Like you say, there's a little huffing and puffing going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So, the other part about something like a bike or doing some sort of exercise is pumping the blood throughout your whole system and
Yeah.
especially to the brain.
Yeah.
And that's like even you started with the memory screens that
Yeah.
Allison's going to be doing. And I think that if we want to protect our brain, part of it is that activity. All the stuff that we've learned on that Dementia Coalition is that getting your brain working through the blood pumping through your whole system is essential. Exercise is really essential. I didn't realize how. I used to hear diet and exercise all your
Yeah,
life, and of
right.
course you ignored it because you were busy drinking beer or something,
Uh-huh.
but later in life, you come to realize that, well, I think they had a pretty good idea because
Right.
I'm starting to feel these things and I'm starting, it's like I'm giving this up and I shouldn't do that anymore. And a lot of what disability is about, it's not what you can't do, it's what you can do, or finding a way to do what you want to do.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's 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 getting the motivation, like you said, is probably the biggest thing, and whether you do it by yourself or find a partner that you can take a walk with, or do these exercises at a facility. Swimming is a big thing. My sister in Minneapolis, she's in an apartment building that has a lap pool, and since she's moved there, she's been in the pool every single day, and she is noticing a difference because it is a full body exercise to
Oh
be
yeah.
in that pool and moving around. Plus, the nice thing about pools is that you have a less weighted, you're more buoyant,
Hmm.
so it's a nicer workout than being outside the pool, because now you have to deal with gravity. In the pool, gravity isn't such a big issue.
Right. Plus, you're
And
stretching really hard when you're making those strokes, when you're doing
yeah,
laps like that. And that's back to the stretching. The stretching is so important. You think about, you can lift weights, and you'll build those biceps up. But, you know, back in the day when you would just say, well, you're so tight, I could slap you upside the head, before you even come close to touching me because you're so tight. These
yeah,
muscles are tight, but they're so tight because you're restricting the other muscles from moving
sure.
together.
Oh,
And that tightness is what happens over time, no matter what your job is. Think about it. If you're a bank teller and you're standing in that location, so many hours a day, you tighten up certain muscles. If
yeah,
you're sitting all day, you tighten up certain muscles. If you're getting in and out of a piece of equipment like the people that drive dump trucks and cement trucks, some of those jobs, you really have to use certain muscles, but you're not using the other ones.
right.
And they're all
Yeah,
supposed to be working in conjunction. And when one is tight somewhere, it's affecting something else somewhere.
yeah.
If you stub your toe and you start walking different, all of a sudden it's like, well, my whole spine is starting to hurt just because I stubbed my toe and it hurt for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Maybe a good one that really, really hurt,
Oh,
like that. But, you know, that's where you learn that, hey, this is affecting all of me.
yeah.
And that's the one thing that it seems like in the medical community, they treat the part you complain about, not realizing that all of it is attached. Maybe they realize it, and because of our corporate system, they just don't
Right.
have the
Insurance.
time
Yeah.
to tell you how to do it right.
Yeah.
Here's your 6 weeks of physical therapy, and we're done with you.
Right. Yeah. Insurance doesn't tend to look at the holistic part of healing from an accident or from aging. And yeah, it's quite the journey, not just for us 60-year-olds, but the 30-year-olds who are listening to this radio program. It's wise advice to really take care of, because I've realized now, as I did, as you did, my earlier years were drug using and all sorts of craziness, and we just don't think about how that has an effect on our body 30 years later, and here we are dealing with these issues. And it's like, I wish I would have knocked myself in the head 30 years ago and said, hey, pay attention.
But it's not too late.
No.
That's the thing, is it's
Yeah.
the whole idea is it's not too late. That's why, I learned so much from that PBS show. It's called Classical Stretch with Miranda Esmond White.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that learning that how important the stretching was over just building muscle was what helped
Sure.
guide me along to become flexible again and do the things that I
And
thought
that's
I
where
wasn't going to be able to do.
yoga comes in. Yoga is a lot of stretching
Yeah.
and just concentrating on that. So
It sounds too California for some people, I
you
think.
know,
You know,
yeah,
but at the
yeah,
same time, does it work? If it works, maybe we should look into it.
yeah. Well, Don, it's always been great conversations when you come in because both of us can relate to each other
Yeah.
and our aches and pains. And I'm hoping our listeners can relate to us and some of those listeners who don't relate to us because I don't have any pain. Well, give it 30 years. It'll come around. It's
Or maybe they're
inevitable.
just taking care of themselves and that's
Yeah,
why they don't have it.
that's true. Well, how can people get a hold of you, Don, if they have any questions about the services that indiGO can offer and what you offer to them?
indigo is available at 715-392-9118. And that hooks you up with all the counties that we serve because we serve 8 counties
Yeah,
and 4 tribal communities.
yeah. Well, good. Thanks again, Don, for coming in. This is always encouraging to me as much as it's painful to talk about sometimes.
Well, I'm
Appreciate
looking
our once a
forward to
month.
next month.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Don Posh from indiGO Independent Living Services here in the area. It is 9 o'clock. Coming up next is Democracy Now! You're listening to WOJB 88.9.